Hey everybody, welcome in to Pro Football Ireland. We are live on Radio Row. Funny development over the last 24 hours. Mark Hogan got ejected from the Super Bowl for I don't know. Dara Carger's here. Dara, I know Jason's sitting beside me, but I really should have introduced Jason, but it's good to see you, lad. Good to get an Northern lad up here. Jeez.
I know, yeah. There's a real stark lack of Ulstermen on Radio Row.
Real stark lack of Ulstermen.
Yeah,
in the NFL, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, no, here we've got one. We've got one in the south of Nuns. Figure it out. Dan Whelan, technically.
Well, yeah. On that note, Jason, what's crack, lad? How you doing?
Very well.
Are you excited for another day of madness in this place?
Yeah, you never know what to expect here. Really, it's picking up definitely after yesterday. Opening night was pretty cool, but yeah, Wednesday's really when it gets going, isn't it? That's the day it kind of gets chaotic in Radio Row.
I think we're still not at max velocity of Radio Row. There's a
max velocity.
Yeah, there's like Monday is obviously very kind of dead. Tuesday you're seeing some kind of faces show up. Wednesday hits sort of turbo drive a little bit, and Wednesday, Thursday are kind of madness. And then Friday, obviously, it peters out a little bit. But yeah,
somebody
we're
definitely done English Lit GCSE there, velocity.
Thanks. A-star.
Over to our left here, you can see the McAfee show getting finalised. I think when that gang arrives, they're just automatically going to inject a whole new level of excitement to the place, aren't they?
Definitely excited for the McAfee show starting tomorrow on campus.
Catch Mick live watching the McAfee show. He's going to do a reaction video live.
And I was sort of saying to myself, should I be that one guy there when it starts? No, I shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't. Please God, no.
I'll say that. Anyway, we are presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and in the UK. We're delighted to be here at Radio Row, and for people watching us live that maybe you're just jumping in to the week's coverage, we had Charlie Smith here yesterday. Charlie's going to be with us again this week. Opening night last night. Before we jump into our first topic, Dara, how did you find opening night?
It was fun. It was a little more crowded than last year, but it's kind of weird because you've got the same teams. Carl Aftis saying I see you every year was quite funny, which you're we see you every year too. It's always a cool event. It's so cool to see the stadium. Some people argue, no, it should be in an arena. It's a little more convenient for the media, but I like getting into the stadium and seeing it because I've never been to the Superdome before, and it's quite impressive. So yeah, enjoyed myself. It's something to do that doesn't involve going to Bourbon Street and getting rode off.
It was definitely a lot better for the fans, wasn't it? Because last year we were just on the pitch. The field can be rolled out, so we weren't trampling on it or anything. This year it's turf. They don't want people trampling on the pitch, so they actually brought the players around the edges. Which naturally meant when you have 1,000+ media jammed in on the sidelines, it gets a bit.
You have to squeeze Mackay Becton and Jalen Carter in there too, which it's worth 10 people. So,
I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was as good as last year, only because of the fact that we were actually on the field last year. But it was really, really still quite good, and there's been a decent vibe here so far in New Orleans. If we had to say, just to start off, if there was one famous person that we've met so far that we're surprised that we've met, who is it? The most famous person? Dara, don't you go first because I know what your answer is going to be.
Yeah.
I actually don't even know mine. Oh, actually I do. Yes.
Jason, who's the most famous person you've seen so far this week?
It wasn't my intention coming into the week, but I've just been hunting ex-Cardinals for the last 24 hours. Where I was chatting to DJ Humphreys yesterday, DeAndre Hopkins, saw Hollywood, and then I walk in today chatting to Patrick Peterson, who's one of the biggest players when I first started watching the NFL. And as I was covered in sauce on my face, eating chicken wings, Cardinals guard Will Hernandez walked past, looked at me and said, "Those wings look nice." So that was kind of bizarre. Not exactly a big famous name, but for a Cardinals fan, it's been pretty bonkers.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the Rock moment of 2025.
Yeah, well, The Rock, I was taking a slash next to The Rock last year in Dublin. I walked into a Jack's and Seamus walked out of a cubicle.
The Jacks are a real good luck charm for you, Jason.
Something about WWE wrestlers and toilets. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but
we'll see the crack. Dara, you met a really big person. I'll get mine out of the way to start off. Probably Neil Reynolds is up there.
Yeah.
The biggest name in football, really, Neil Reynolds. But you really ran into somebody.
Yeah, of all places, I ran into Travis Hunter at Chick-fil-A, which he wasn't there to promote Chick-fil-A. He wasn't there as any kind of advertisement. I was just in the line, and there was like 2 men in front of me. He's not overly taller than me or heavier than me, which really made me question what I'm doing with my athletic career. But there was him and a very well-dressed agent, and I could already tell by the manner of the agent that this was someone big. And then Travis Hunter's got quite a distinguishable face, so I was like, oh my god, that's Travis Hunter. I didn't really didn't go out of my way. I was like, hello Travis, because I don't know what to say to him. That's kind of all.
What
I
did
wish
he order?
I don't know. I should have really followed up on that. No, but there was an order. Like it was quite funny. Obviously, I don't expect the Chick-fil-A employee to know who Travis Hunter is, but you put your name down. Well, it says like, who's it for? I say it's for Dara, and then they'll say order for Dara. She's like, order for Travis? Like, well, not in like a Northern Irish accent, but you know what I mean? Yeah. And like looks around as if like, you know, it's not Travis Hunter. Like, I would very discreetly just hand him his meal, but yeah.
There is interview. There's a press conference tomorrow at 3 o'clock, which is 9 o'clock Irish time. For NFL International, we don't know what it is. I think it might be something to do with Australia. So we will be going out live earlier tomorrow as I hold in a burp. That's not really professional live at all, lads.
No.
I'm sorry. And for everybody on the podcast, I'm sorry. Just a big thanks to everybody for your support. The amount of messages I woke up to this morning, people listening to the podcast. Look, if I'm not getting back to you, it's really appreciated, folks. We've got some questions here this evening. If you do have any questions for us and you're watching live, get them in. If you're listening back, get them in for Wednesday's show as well. We are going to start off, obviously, believe it or not, we're not just here for the crack. There actually is a football game on Sunday. It's a pretty big game, like Super Bowl. It is quite
The
big.
biggest.
And we're going to talk about the Chiefs today, mainly in this podcast, and we're going to talk about the Chiefs' DNA. And you know, for you, what stands out, Jason, for this Chiefs team for you? Because there's so many different elements, different little pieces that make this team what they are, on the verge of a sleeping.
I mean, the big 3 you're going to hear about all week is Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and of course SPAGS on defense. They're the 3 guys who get talked about the most, and rightly so, because if we want to talk about the Chiefs being a dynasty, which is obviously one of the main topics this week, they're well set to be that into the foreseeable future because it's so stable right now. Patrick Mahomes is only 29 years old. Andy Reid, 66, showing no signs of slowing down. He ticked the box this week to say he's not going to retire, which is a question that keeps popping up, but I think he's got no intention of retiring in the next 5 years anyway. Spags then, of course, we know how good he is as a DC, and for some reason or another he can't get that head coach role if that's even something he's looking for. So when you have those 3 pieces locked in long term, I think they're really set to be formidable and challenge every kind of dynasty that's gone through NFL history. 49ers, the Patriots more recently. They're absolutely well set right now.
Dara, when you look at this actual Chiefs team and you look at their DNA, I'm going to talk about Spags in a wee second, but we've seen them. Like, you've been this your second Super Bowl or first? Second. And the Chiefs have been there both times. Yeah. Hogan said a really great stat the other day. He's been to 4 Super Bowls. He's seen like 4 different teams because it's been that repetitive.
3 teams.
3 teams. Like, that's insane, to be honest with you. How does this Chiefs team break it down for you? Like, what's your thoughts as we go into this game on Sunday?
I never even thought about that he's only seen 3 teams. That's so sad. Look, it's the Chiefs. Like, they're just always going to be there. They linger and linger and linger in every single game. Like, there is no world where we come into the fourth quarter and the Eagles haven't won on Sunday. Like, there just isn't. It's going to be, at worst, like the Eagles up 7 from the Chiefs' point of view. And, like, that's just something that goes so unnoticed, is how they never let games slip away, even if they concede a score early. Like, they respond so convincingly. And I've always said their tackling ability is the main, it's the DNA of the Chiefs, and it has been just this whole run. It's the most fundamental part of the sport, is tackling on defense, and it feels like everyone is trying to get so kind of technical and talking about all these fancy things, and we probably will talk about, because that's kind of the icing on the cake of what Spags is able to do. But on a down-to-down basis, they're the best tackling team the NFL has ever seen. Like, it's not even up for debate, and that's just what makes them tick. It's obviously great drafting from Brett Veach, who we spoke about earlier, doesn't get nearly enough credit. And like, it's just the kind of thing where if you have a team that tackles this well, think about how many big plays in NFL history have involved someone completely whiffing on a tackle. Think about Marcus Williams on the Diggs Minneapolis Miracle, things like that. It's just they're fundamentally sound.
And you mentioned Brett Veach there, and I intentionally left him off that list of three names that I mentioned with Mahomes, Spags and Reed. But Brett Veach really isn't talked about much at all when you look at this Chiefs dynasty. Obviously they've reached a handful of Super Bowls now in recent times, but this current Chiefs roster, just 5 players were on this team in the Super Bowl 54 5 years ago, so it's a completely new team. He's very flexible in what he does, whether it's getting rid of Tyreek Hill, bringing in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins when that need is there. He's not afraid to address injury holes or roster holes in season, where you see a lot of GMs kind of sit back and let the next man up mentality take over. Brett Veach has done a great job through the draft as well. You've got guys like Nick Bolton, Karlaftis, Humphreys, Worthy coming out this year. The list goes on. He's just done a phenomenal job to reshape this roster and tweak the points where they need it most.
It's funny because I was looking back, and I'll talk about it in a second, about SPAGs and certain plays I was watching on the plane over this week. Like, Dar, we had the chance last night to chat to Karlaftis, and can I just publicly thank you for your stellar camera work there. There actually is a comment from Jamie here that says, how is the atmosphere after opening night? Pretty decent vibe, I think. There's a cool vibe in the city. It's going to get bigger and bigger over the next few days, Jamie, and thanks for your question. We do have other questions that we're going to get to at the end of this programme. Just generally, I said to Karlaftis, like, these lads don't know what it's like to lose. Like, it's actually mad, but the respect and the answer that he gave in terms of how much they respect Spagnuolo and how much they know that he's going to make big plays and big moments and big decisions and big moments is so key. Because I was looking at different situations earlier on in the season whenever they were facing Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Defense for Spags focused on disrupting the timing of the passing game using a significant amount of pre-snap motion and post-snap rotation, which completely confused Burrow. If you could fast forward to last week in the AFC Championship game on that critical 4th and 5 play, Justin Reed, Trent McDuffie blitzing, different plays that we did not see during the regular season, which they just keep and then bring out now in the playoffs. I just don't know why Spags keeps us all in the locker and then brings it out when people don't expect him to. But one can only imagine what the hell he's going to have ready on Sunday against the Eagles. He's probably got a whole book of stuff. He's like, right, lads, we're doing this week. Like, if you go back to the Eagles Super Bowl whenever Nick Foles won it with the Philly and stuff, for all we know, we're going to see a play for the first time ever this week that's going to completely blow up, whether it's on the defense or offense. But he's a guy you'd put your house on him. You trust him that much. I think if you're one of those defensive guys. I
think they're so experienced. They've been here so many times. They know that there's a massive advantage to holding things back till later on. DeAndre Hopkins got like 10 or 11 snaps in the AFC Championship game, and I just have this feeling that he's going to have a much heavier role in the Super Bowl. It's like, let's not show them all our hands, because they have so many different ways they could beat you, and it's just
it's kind of a bit like Odell Beckham in Super Bowl against the Bengals, for the Rams, where it's like you've got this older player who's obviously been really had a really reputable career leading up to this point, has had battled through certain injuries, and then it's like, you know what, can we just get you at your very best for a game? In Odell's case, it was like a half before he ended up tearing his ACL. He was a bang-on candidate for Super Bowl MVP. Would have been a crazy way to like cap off his career. Already still was. He was a key part of that game. You kind of figured that was going to be the case. But if you're the Chiefs, you can kind of say, here, like, we have one of the best receivers of this era. Why can we not just get one more game out of DeAndre Hopkins? And I'm sure DeAndre Hopkins, who's never won a ring, never even been to a Super Bowl, is thinking the same thing. He's saying, I can just pull out one more game. I can leave it all on the line tonight. I don't need to worry about an injury flaring up halfway through this game, because here, if he wins the Super Bowl, he might just call it quits.
We've got a Monaghan man on here. Guy McGurk says, how's the boys living the dream? Are we living the dream?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Like,
it's pretty cool.
It's a bit mad.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, obviously, in New Orleans in terms of like the alcoholic side of things.
Is there?
Yeah, there's
as somebody that's teetotal, I wouldn't.
Dara, this morning, I've never seen a man take so many tablets and supplements to try and get his body right.
Did you boys stay out last? Like, I went to bed early last night. Did you boys actually stay out for a bit? Like, what time are we talking here? Like,
a few too many Irish bars. Just hunting for a Guinness that's just right.
Still
haven't found it. The search is still ongoing.
Last night, these boys were walking around New Orleans. Like, bearing in mind that opening night finished at least 10 past 10 or so, and we walked up to an Irish bar and Mark Hogan, I'm going to say this because he's not here and he's not going to listen back because he hasn't got enough time. Mark Hogan wouldn't go into the bar if it had a plastic cup. Is this the level that we're at, folks, in terms of, like, just get in the bar and get a drink? Like it's grand.
What was your step count? We were at 23,000 steps at this point.
23,000.
Walking off all that gumbo.
By Gary did put in there and said Hopkins over is 10.5 yards.
Gimme that.
Get on it. 888 Sport, 18 plus B gamble lower. We have got our first guest, our only guest today, actually. We got Adam Rank joining us tomorrow, but we've got a great friend of this podcast, and the guy, Dara, forgot your name for a second, lad. Sorry.
Hi.
Guy Dara was very generous to take time, and great to have you there that night as well, and Nuri. Really breaking down the game and making me feel like a complete idiot, to be quite frank, listening to the YouTube boys go on. But Sam Monson taking time out of his busy schedule. Obviously, Sam went from PFF, bit of a name issue there, PFI, PFF, to the 33rd team. And it was great to hear from Sam ahead of the Super Bowl. We're going to put his interview on now, and we'll be back to look into more in-depth thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs. Continuing here on Radio Row at the Super Bowl 59, Pro Football Ireland, cold. We'll talk about that in a wee minute. We're here with the main man, AFI Hall of Famer from the 33rd team. Delighted to have back Sam Monson, big friend of this podcast and just friend of every football fan in Ireland. Sam, Falcha, what's the crack? How you getting on?
Yeah, I'm doing good. We were just at the Senior Bowl last week. Me and Steve were down there in Mobile. My first time at the Senior Bowl. And then there's a whistle-stop tour back at home for a day or two and then back down here. And as yet, we have no way of getting home. We only booked one-way tickets because we left it so late that the return flights were insane. So we're like, well, let's play the last-minute game and let's just see if they come down. And if not, we're driving back from New Orleans. So that'll be fun.
As a man that did the last minute thing and lost last
week. It's not going to work. We're driving back, I'm pretty sure.
I was looking at a 26-hour bus to Denver after this. 26. And that was the express bus. The $500 flight to Denver. That's $26 on Tuesday. That's what I'm doing.
And you're in Cincinnati.
So
how long are we talking?
It's a 13.5-hour drive, I think, from here.
Sam,
yeah, it's not going to be fun.
We don't understand.
But we're looking
over here.
So we're like, either we're trying to get the flight back on Monday. Monday's insane. So we're like, we could probably get it back on Tuesday. At that point, it's a day either way, which is cheap. But if you're going back on Tuesday, the flights on Tuesday have gotten expensive, and you'd have to stay in a hotel. So at that point, it's cheaper to drive. It's going to suck either way, but, whatever. 13, it's doable.
We'll see.
Sam, Hall of Famer, we kind of brushed past that.
Yeah, literally. What about that announcement?
I love the way they announced it. On the actual show.
Steve kind of ambushed
Steve done a good job.
Well, he'd kind of arranged it. The guy had reached out to Steve before, and Steve sort of went, well, hang on, we're doing our award show. That would be a really cool time to announce it if that's good by you. And they're like, yeah, sure. I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know it existed as an entity.
Yeah, have you got your thoughts now since? Because you're definitely caught off the hop when they said it to you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I genuinely didn't know that this existed as a concept. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I played in that league for I don't know how many years, like a good few years, a couple of different teams, and then obviously since that I've had the whole kind of PFF career, and now on to Check the Mic podcast with the 33rd team. So sort of, there are not that many Irish people in quote unquote the industry, so it's a pretty small short list, but I have to be somewhere near the top of it.
And is it cool to see how the league has developed since you've stopped playing? Like, they're playing internationally now, and
that's awesome.
Some quality teams.
That's really cool. And seeing the kind of the step towards professionalism that it's had, as a sort of, with a small p, like just everything being more organized, being more formalized, actually doing it the right way, trying to structure all these things. That's definitely very cool because, when I was playing, it was very, very amateur and with the attitudes as well as just the results and that kind of thing. So, yeah, seeing them play proper international teams, good quality opposition, that kind of thing, it's very good.
And you have to shout out the coaching because, look, the likes of the Steelers bringing guys over and doing clinics.
Yeah.
And it was brought up.
Well, if something happened
this was brought up, like our tradition now, the night before we fly out over here, we're getting the head coach of the Shamrock Ball over. You obviously had Darren. This was brought up, like how professional it's gone.
It's been pretty cool. And just to mark on that as well, I know a lot of people watching this. If you have a chance on Sunday, support your local team. Go out to their events. Like they're paying for their ambulances, their insurance. I don't think people think about this. It's really their livelihoods. Like there's a lot of parties in Dublin and Belfast and different places as well. So do check it out. I'll have to say Cork as well before I get in trouble. There's one in Derry as well. So I'll move on very quickly. I do want to thank you publicly for coming out to Newry for us in August, but it feels like that season's just flowing by.
Yeah.
Man. But it was actually such a really interesting night because I was sitting like this here, just listening to Sam and Dark Harker go into the integrals of the NFL, and I was like, oh my God, am I ready for this season? Thank you for that, but also you've had a really, it's not a difficult year, but you've had a real transition over the last year. How have you found, like, you know, switching to the 33rd team and sort of starting afresh in that way? Because you've been very successful, Sam, as well.
It's been great. Obviously, it was a sort of scary leap for both of us. I mean, this is kind of the only real job that either of us have ever had. I mean, Steve was a former, minor league baseball pitcher. That's a crazy career, and it's not like a real job. You know what I mean? Like just about a professional athlete. Like those guys get paid almost nothing, to do that, trying to make it to the big leagues. Never quite made it that far. I had kind of bummed around trying to figure out what I was going to do and sort of stumbled into PFF at the ground level. So that was basically my entire professional life. Like started at PFF when it was a few people and it was kind of a hobby more than a job. Rose through the ranks of PFF, was one of the core people there, ran the consumer side of that business for a while. Sort of transitioned into just being a content person, quote unquote talent. And our podcast became really successful. And then, but the problem is the way the company was set up, we didn't own anything, right? So we were doing this really successful show. Nobody there really knew whether it was making money, losing money. Like they hadn't put it down as like a sort of profit and loss enterprise. So we were having these conversations being like, look, neither one of us is young anymore, right? We've got families, like we're trying to kind of earn a bit more out of this, and they didn't know what it was starting with. So it was like you'd have these conversations where it was like they were doing us a favor, letting us do our own show, and we're like, this thing is bringing in $500,000 and it's being undersold at that. Like it should be worth $800,000. Like we're not being unreasonable looking for a little bit more money or ownership or any of these things, and they were basically shutting the door and all that. So we were like, well, okay, we're going to try and go our own way and take ownership, and if that means we have to start over from scratch, it's a risk worth taking. We took the risk. We went with the 33rd team. Those guys have been fantastic from start to finish, and the only real variable was, how much of our audience are we going to bring with us, right? And it was all guesswork. Like we'd done research, we'd asked people, we'd projected it out, and we had the sort of low end, the high end. If the low end hit, we were kind of in some trouble. If the high end hit, we were golden, and it was probably somewhere in the middle. It landed pretty much. I think YouTube did better than we thought it would, and audio did slightly worse. So overall, it kind of netted out as slap bang in the middle of all of our projections, which is fine. Like it's more than enough for everyone to be happy.
Here, it sounds like the story of Pro Football Ireland up until I heard $500,000.
I actually, just to stay on, I actually really enjoy the recaps, because I'm not saying you sit and work, but they come on at a very nice time in the morning or afternoon for us. So it's there's a good vibe. Like there's always been a good vibe between you guys, but it's enjoyable to watch and just continue success, man.
We have, like, it's so funny, the number of people we have that we talk to that listen to the show always blows my mind. Like, we always talk about ourselves as being like a middle class podcast, not in terms of social demographic, but like we're right in the middle of, like, we're not McAfee, right, who's got millions of listeners, and we're not like these shows where nobody's listening. We're somewhere right in the middle. And so Super Bowl week is fascinating because you guys do an amazing job of like hustling and getting guests and all this kind of thing, right? But generally speaking, this week is a really stark reminder of where you sit in the pecking order of the NFL landscape, right? And we are just big enough for everyone to say yes on Monday, and then just small enough so that the rest of the week is people bumping us for other people, right? So we have this whole plan of like, we're going to talk to all these people. This is going to be our week. And then as the week goes, we're just like crossing them off one after another, and they all get... So that's kind of where it is. But then we go to like the Senior Bowl, and we have NFL general managers saying that they listen to the show, and that's how they keep up with the rest of the league. And we're like, that's insane. Like, why? You guys relying on us for information is a terrible idea. Like, that sounds wrong. But, like, it's every time we talk to these people, like the number of NFL personnel that say that they use our show because we cover every team instead of just one, it's always kind of amazing to me.
If you want to apologise, it's Michael Rob's your guest. That's where they go. It's like this man over here goes and poaches them.
No comment. I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have went down. So naturally, we're rocking into the Superdome last night. We were sitting here yesterday chatting to Charlie as well, and yes, people are here for the Super Bowl crack, but there's a lot going on in the league as well. Jason, do you want to take us away with it?
Yeah, like Goodell has a presser yesterday, and he's talking about that he sees an international franchise happening eventually.
Yeah.
I just want to know where you stand on that. Is that something you'd like to see, or?
I was talking to Neil Reynolds about it last night, actually. He was saying he doesn't think that it'll go that way. What he was saying is, they'll get to the 18-game schedule, which is inevitable in the next couple of years. And then he thinks that they'll basically get it to 16 international games so that everyone's got one. You'll probably have the 2 bye weeks if that happens. Like 1 extra game in the regular season. We'll offset that with 1 bye week. And now you've got this nice, neat window where everybody gets an international game somewhere. There's an extra bye week so that it can coordinate so that everyone can get a bye week off the back of whatever crazy journey they're undertaking. And then they don't have to deal with any of the franchise setting up anywhere else. They don't have to deal with any of that stuff. It's just a nice, neat sort of setup. So it was kind of interesting to then hear Goodell say, actually, yeah, we do think an international franchise would make sense. To me, it's always felt like either what Neil is pitching makes sense or waiting until you've basically got a division that you could spool up internationally, like a London franchise, a German franchise, whatever that looks like, and expand it by an entire division. Because one just does, it's not, like it's so neat at the moment with 32 teams, all the divisions, equal numbers. You can't really expand it by one at the moment. You need to, you need something that also makes sense. Otherwise, all the maths goes to hell.
And it's been so obvious now the last few years that Neil's narrative was the one that makes sense. And he was getting that through Goodell, like publicly in the things, that it's like, it's the F1 model. That's what everyone's saying. And then you put the international games there. One of the other things as we jump off that is Cooper Kupp puts out that big lengthy statement. So we'll touch on some of those trades that could be coming up potentially. Cooper Kupp, look, he's a vertical. Like, all he can do is run straight lines, it seems now. Is that an accurate assessment? Like, would you be dying to get him in your building?
It depends what your roster looks like at the moment. I mean, obviously, on his CV is one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time. He's been an incredibly successful player. But he's reached that age now where you're a little bit worried about decline anyway, and he's had a lot of injuries, so it's very difficult to know what exactly he is at this point. And of course, you've got the complicating factor with all these trades is always what kind of contract are they on. So I think if you're a team like New England, say, where you have no wide receivers, and you need a guy that can come in, a veteran presence, team with your quarterback, I think he could definitely still help a lot of teams. But I don't think anybody is looking at him and saying you're going to get, the old version of Cooper Kupp back in at full strength. I think he's going to become, the sort of slot type weapon, a bit like Adam Thielen in Carolina, where he's just going to become a quarterback's best friend somewhere, can be part of a rejuvenated wide receiver corps, but he's not going to fix it by himself.
It's a good thing that trade deadline is in place, or is straight to the Chiefs in time for the Super Bowl, right?
Before Pete bring on Cooper Kupp in a couple of weeks. That it's just inevitable. They'll win on Sunday and then find a way to bring him in somehow just for the crack.
Miles Garrett, the other one.
Yeah, it's a reverse dynamic in Cleveland. Kupp doesn't want to leave, but the Rams want to get rid of him. But Miles Garrett is the guy who wants out of Cleveland. Who are some potential suitors there if he can force that move?
Yeah, and the problem there is like you're saying, the team, not only do they not want to let him go, but it's really difficult for them to let him go. Like his contract, because they're so screwed with the Deshaun Watson thing, like it's hard for them they would have to make several significant moves, cutting Jack Conklin, that type of thing, just to be able to get rid of him because of the dead cap hit and what it would do to their salary cap. So I don't know if they're going to be able to make that thing happen because, they don't want to get rid of him in the first place, and it's such a problem to even do it. It would take, I think, a crazy trade offer to come in for that to happen, and then whoever does trade for him is going to have to give him a new contract and re-up him for make him basically the best paid defensive player in the NFL. So I think there are a couple of teams that would be happy to do that would make that move. The Washington Commanders is a team I think that a lot of people have floated out that I love as a fit. I think that would make a ton of sense. But finding all three of those things at the same time feels like a stretch. Like a team that's willing to give up what it would take for the Browns to make it happen, who are willing to pay him the extension that he's going to want, and that sort of makes sense. Like, he wants out of Cleveland because they're not winning anything anytime soon, so he's only going to want to go somewhere that can win sometime soon. So finding that kind of confluence of all of those things at the same time feels like a really difficult juggling act. I suspect what's more likely is the Browns eventually placate him with a new contract themselves and try and keep him in the building.
Yeah, I suppose, because I suppose it comes about money, and he obviously wants to chase a ring, which would be massive. It's funny that you say Washington, because obviously Young and Sweat, once upon a time, they went for that pass rush, and it's like, I imagine they end up with Myles Garrett, but a team like Green Bay, but the thing with Green Bay is they don't want to give up their picks, especially if they were to give up a first rounder, and it's being made in Green Bay. I think I know the answer to this. Does that factor in, do you reckon? You want to make your first overall pick, or your first round pick, in front of your fans? That's protected this year.
Yeah, I think it probably does. It's definitely not something they would want to sacrifice, but if it was a deal that got you Myles Garrett, I think they'd be willing to do it. But it's definitely like, that's a factor when they're having these discussions in the building. Somebody is bringing up, hey, this is a draft pick that's going to happen, down the street here in front of our fans. Do we want to put that on the table and get rid of it in a trade? I think it's definitely a factor, but the bigger issue, I think, is all the other stuff. This is what we're going to have to give up. This is the cap that we're going to have to dedicate to this guy, and Cleveland really doesn't want to move him, so we're going to have to give up a lot to bring him over.
Just one of the last ones from us. The Pete Carroll move in Vegas seems like a great move for the organization, but it seems like a real win-now move for them as well. Obviously, Tom Brady's got the strings in behind there, and we'll not even go into that.
Yeah, and does that remove Max Crosby, I suppose, from the trade market? Because obviously he's the other one that everyone's going to be going for, and he's... Do you think that's removed Max Crosby from the trade market?
I guess it depends how far off they think they are. I mean, if you remember way back when Carroll took over in Seattle, the first year there, they made like 1 million moves. Like, they just made so many moves, brought in so many people, shipped off so many people. The turnover was nuts. So if they think that this is, the start of a rebuild, it's going to take a couple of years, Crosby's that kind of trade piece that you can get a lot for and move him on now, because, in 2-3 years' time, when you're actually good, he's not going to be necessarily part of that, or, it'll take that kind of time. So I think they could still move him if they think, that's the way to go. It is fascinating, though. I don't think that Carroll is necessarily, a short-term type of move. Like, I know he's extremely old in NFL coaching terms, but the dude is still walking around like he's 30 years younger than that, like playing catch with guys in practice and stuff. Like, he's not necessarily, I think, a guy that's only in this for a couple of years. I think he could be there long term, whatever that looks like. And now, they look like a franchise that's willing to spend, for the first time. Like, the Raiders have not always been...
Second most cap space, yeah.
Yeah, they've not always been free spending. And all of a sudden, they've got this sort of influx of cash with the minority owners. They're bringing in the highest paid coordinators in the game. They're bringing in guys like Pete Carroll. It's going to be an interesting dynamic, because everyone they've brought in is kind of like an old school football type of person, as opposed to a new school, analytics, data-driven approach. So it might be a very extreme version of something, but I think they're bringing in smart people, and they're showing they're willing to spend to make that happen in the areas where you're not restricted from spending. Like, the areas that Jerry Jones doesn't spend, right? You can spend whatever you want on coaching. You could have an unlimited expense dedicated to your coaching roster, right? The best paid coaching staff in the NFL, and there's nothing stopping you doing that. Like, a team like Denver, right, where the Waltons just have an endless checkbook. They basically did that as well with Sean Payton. You can spend whatever you want on the coaching staff, and that's a potential edge over cheap owners that don't want to do that. Now the Raiders might be entering that world.
Arizona Cardinals come to mind with Jonathan Gannon.
There we go.
Well, more money he was offered to stay in Philadelphia as an offensive coordinator, but he took a head coaching job to pay him less back in the day.
I just love the odd Cardinals in the podcast. It took 18 minutes.
It's obligatory.
Here, before we go, just very quickly, who's going to win on Sunday, Sam? Tell Ireland who they should potentially not bet on 18+ B gambling.
I do think it feels like a coin flip. The line is still 1.5. I think it's basically been that the whole time, which is basically a coin flip. And I really think that's where it is. And in a coin flip, you can't go against the Chiefs. Like, they have to be, if it's 50-50, you're going to lean on the side that always wins the 50-50s.
Might rob that line for the rest of the week because I can't fill it.
I just love the answer where it's like, I think that's a perfect. We'll obviously have our time on Friday where we give our picks, and I'm just going to say that as well.
It does feel like the best two teams in the NFL this year. So on the one hand, it's the Super Bowl nobody wanted, right? It's the Eagles against the Chiefs again when it could have been Washington, Detroit, all these other teams. On the other hand, it probably is the two best teams in the NFL. So you can't really ask for more than that when you get down to the final game.
The Eagles kind of flew under the radar for a long time there, didn't they?
Yeah, well,
they didn't get the plaudits.
That was the Lions' narrative, really, though, wasn't it?
It's because
the best roster.
It's because they're not. It's not a constant, right? Like the teams in September are not the same as the teams in January, and the Chiefs in particular. They got really healthy late on. They got a ton of guys back, and they're a different team now than they were. And the same thing with the Eagles. They lost a couple of games early, and then they went on this run where the only team to beat them in the last 3 months is Washington, and they needed to play basically a perfect game for that to happen. So I think both of these teams are way stronger now than they were earlier in the year, and that obviously sort of affects, that's the prism through which you look at these teams for such a long time during the season. It's all of the year. Whereas now, stuff that happened in September doesn't matter anymore.
Sam, we're going to look at the camera just to pretend that we're taking a photo right now, and we're all going to smile. But for everybody in the podcast, really appreciate this is as Pro Football Ireland's our first Super Bowl second in Radio Row. We wouldn't be here without people like yourself. So I genuinely really, really appreciate you. And if you're ever home over the next few months, give us a shout. Hopefully we have a game to look forward to at some point as well, and I'm sure we'll have a couple of BB Guinnesses if that happens.
Yeah, that'd be good. And we got to get, if that happens, it's my mission to try and get Steve over to Ireland, and we can show the giant around the place. Fit him in the plane
because the man's about 7.
We'll fit him in the plane. There's be a lot of other places we won't be able to fit him, and I think that should be part of. If we do that, that should be part of the week, right? Is finding all these small doorways and trying to get him through.
I'd love to see Steve with a hurl for some reason, just the baseball background.
That bar that I can't remember the name of on Dame Street, where it's down in the basement and everything is this height. We can get him in there. That'd be pretty fun.
It's called Underdog for a minute, I think, is the one that you're referencing. Oh no, Stag's Head. You're talking about Stag's Head. I bet you that's it.
Yeah,
100%. Shout out Stag's Head. J.R. Man's proudly brought it to you.
Hopefully we have that issue to worry about. Anyway, Sam, Gurmy Mogget, thank you very, very much, and we'll see you again soon on Pro Football Ireland. Okay, as I struggle to remove this video, we are live from Radio Row. Jason Hayes is not here anymore. Mark Hogan. Phoebe, what's the crack? I mean, you are that busy, we thought we'd just grab you here now while you're here. What's the crack? How you getting on?
Well, first off, I feel very bad for Jason. Sorry, Jason. I had to kick you out of your own seat here just for a hot minute. I'll let you have it back in a second. Look, it was like Squid Games, rock, paper, scissors. Who's going to win
the
here?
The woman's in Sky Sports. I think she'll do a great job.
Questionable.
Here, I don't know. First off, it's good to see you. I know you've been busy. What was Philly like for the NFC Championship? It was a good crack, yeah?
Oh my goodness, that was phenomenal. The atmosphere, the noise, the excitement. I mean, it was chaos, the confetti. I've never been to a championship game before, and it felt like Super Bowl vibes. Everyone running onto the field at the end. Also, the media element of it is crazy because we're pregame. I'm stood there doing interviews, and you're it's like bumper cars out there. I was I have to plant my feet here and get hench to not let people elbow me around as we're going live. And then same after the game, everyone kind of runs onto the field, and then so random, just starting to die down. I thought, oh, someone's playing football. Let's throw the ball around. It's going to be great. I'm throwing the ball around. I'm like, man, that guy looks so familiar. I'm like, it's Pete Davidson. What are we doing here?
Oh, yeah.
And so that ended up being the most chaotic interview of my life. Pete Davidson, Big Dom's son, and their agent.
We had a guy, Greg, over at the game, and he actually sent me a picture of Pete. I was like, how the hell is Pete Davidson at this game? Obviously, Jordan Mailata loves you as well. I want to get Marco a question.
What about after the game when you're leaving the stadium? Because obviously Philadelphia notoriously fun after a big win like that. Can you leave the parking lot basically?
Well,
it takes ages.
You know what? It's impossible to leave. What I loved, this is my favorite bit. Walking to the car, first off, Eagles fans are still berating the sad Commanders fans, swearing at them.
Hey, that is so tough, though, isn't it?
I was like, guys, really? You can't even give them a break? But in the parking lot where all the tailgate was happening, I'm telling you, 20 cars had 50-inch TVs on their cars playing the Bills-Chiefs game. So everyone's in the parking lot. We're watching that. That was super cool. But the one thing that Philly fans, and I didn't know this, but the police the day before and the day of go around and grease all the poles to make sure that people aren't climbing up the poles. I was like, only in Philadelphia.
Did you try to get up one of the poles? As a deal? I was like, I'd love to know.
Stop here.
Could you imagine?
It was great. I know your hands were tied. We'll talk about you're actually one of the podcasts tomorrow to talk about the college game, the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. That'll be on tomorrow's podcast. I know your hands were tied. We'll talk about Belfast. A good crack. People really enjoyed that FaceTime. Some of the questions. Oh my God, we'll not repeat them on here. The crowd
was I there for them?
You were on Face here, Phoebe. To be fair, now the FaceTime was perfect. We appreciate it as well. Thanks for your continued support. Give us a wee prediction here before we go. Who's going to win Sunday?
Oh my goodness! I'm so torn because my head
because
says
you're on TV and you can't say anything.
No, it's not even that. My head says I think it'd be very cool to see the Chiefs make history. My heart says, come on, Philly fans, I want you to be able to do it.
I mean, we're around the same age, right? I mean, like for me, Brady's the GOAT, right? Like,
yeah, I'm 35. It's all right.
Yeah, well, I'm around there, right? Look,
that's not how this works.
33 years of age, right?
Oh.
Let's just say this. For me, I don't want to see it happen because I feel like it would take away from what Brady's done. And
no.
I know, like, you can't take away from what he's done, but like it would take away a bit of it. And it's hard, you know?
I think it's hard, right? Brady has 7 Super Bowls. He did it in a totally different way. He also did it not only at one team, but at another team he went and won. I think that Brady is still going to maintain that GOAT status. However, Mahomes is so young, under 30 years old. Like
that Buccaneers move is going to come back big time for Tom Brady because
100%.
he did. Because we were saying yesterday, like, because Brady essentially only had to beat Peyton Manning. That was the superstar. Now there's your Ben Roethlisbergers and stuff in the AFC, but it's like coming through the who's who of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and the rest of them.
Yep.
That's what's in Patrick Mahomes' back pocket right now.
It's unreal. Big media party tonight, Phoebe.
Keep me out of that room. I don't want to be there.
Me neither. I'm just here for the food. I'm here for the food and the vibes. That's what I'm really excited for.
Nate Reynolds popping in for a good 20 minutes.
He is coming.
He's coming.
He's coming.
Oh, he's coming.
I said to him.
Right, okay.
He said, oh, you know what? We're staying at one of the residence inn type of places. So it's like, all self catering basically. And he's like, oh, there's no food. I said, well, you're gonna have to come to the party with me. Then we're gonna have to eat somewhere.
We look forward to seeing you. You're gonna pop on tomorrow for the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Looking forward to the next game after Sunday is in Ireland.
Incredible.
Ireland. See the crack. Phoebe, we will see you. I think you're going to come back in about half an hour pre-recorded, but we'll see you very, very soon.
We'll see you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, the crowd behind us at the Sirius XM, Phoebe Schecter. Sounding Pat McAfee here, Phoebe Schecter. Do you want to give Mr.
Jason,
this is the most unprofessional. I'm so sorry, Phoebe. But
you're fine. Thank you for letting me take your seat.
I will see you in a wee bit. Thank you so much. For people on the podcast, we're still here. Phoebe's a legend, man, for coming on. I have news. We have breaking news from the NFL. Somebody just texted me there now.
What a downgrade.
Peter Hogan has texted me saying that Ty Schmidt has apparently opened the Pat McAfee show, saying he can't wait to see us.
No, let's go. Here, someone get us that clip. Clip it up right
Jesus
now. Let's pause the podcast there as the boys go and mark out over this one, but let's see.
I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see the boys tomorrow. That's going to be great crack. Jesus Christ. Tomorrow's podcast, we've got Adam Rank.
How many hopes did
Adam Rank's coming on. We've got Phoebe Schecter going to talk about the Aer Lingus College Football Classic, which is happening this August. You can get tickets at collegefootballireland.com. Sorry, you can't get tickets yet. You can get information on tickets. We will have, and I haven't even told these boys this, we will have an exclusive 2-day pre-sale next month when they're going on sale. So if you can, please use that pre-sale. I mean, like we're all going to the game anyway, so we could crack. Jason, are you excited for the Aer Lingus College Football Classic?
As always, yeah, it's a great year.
It's a good wee weekend, good crack.
Hopefully the McAfee show is back and makes that an annual tradition as well.
Hop, as I get my notes back up. So, look, Mark, thanks for joining us a wee bit there.
I was doing my best Derek Carragher impersonation. I was on the Green Bay radio network talking to Green Bay fans about
jeez, where are you? God, that's surprising.
about that tweet saying that Green Bay is playing in Ireland next year, and I was like, what do you want me to add here? It's like, no, I don't believe they're playing in Ireland next year.
Is there a game in Ireland next year?
Is there a game in Ireland next year?
I have no idea.
No, it was a lot of fun. I'm not going
to ruin my career by saying anything, so I'm going to say no more. Right, so great to have Sam Monson on. We really, really appreciate Sam's time. Will Gavin was walking whenever you were away. He walked onto our camera and went, stared at us down as if he was trying to get us. They had Paige Sponiak a second ago. I seen you were chatting to her a second ago there. Good crack.
Paige, yeah.
Good crack.
Yeah.
She's like
nice
massive
woman.
online.
Nice woman. She hasn't been to Ireland to golf, but she said she'll change.
Well,
that.
the Open is coming this summer to Portrush. Royal Portrush. Big weekend there, lads. Can't wait to see Mike Tirico and the NBC golf team down there. You know, Mike Tirico wouldn't talk to us last time. I was like, oh, please, Mike, no. Right, couple of things to close out this podcast. We're going to look at, obviously, continue on with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to look at the best and worst game of the year. And it's really funny because whenever you research online, there are two sides to each story here. So, for example, Mark, I'm going to pick you first. You're saying the worst performance of the year for the Chiefs. And I'm presuming it was the AFC Championship.
I suppose, no, whoa.
Oh, it was the game before.
Week
Sorry,
11.
my bad.
Do you know what, worst game for the Chiefs is doing them a disservice. It wasn't that it was necessarily the worst game, but it was that loss to the Bills, the Sunday Night Football in Week 11. And it was, I suppose, it was significant because it's their only real loss of the season, right? Because obviously the Denver Broncos one, you're not going to really count because it was all the backups. But it was like, it wasn't necessarily bad because the Bills were the number one in the power rankings going into it. And it was just that it really announced the Bills onto the scene. 30-29, the only reason that the Bills really won it was because they doubled up either side of the half. That's your 9 points account for there with the touchdown and the field goal.
Yeah.
But it was what it kind of showed up in the game. And it's kind of like, it's one... When I've been talking this week and I've really been honing in on, since week 12 the Chiefs have been a different team, and that's why I want to highlight this game. This was the game that the Chiefs stepped away from and were like, we just need to go efficient because of what the Bills were able to do to them and what they weren't able to do against the Bills that they learned from. And it's almost like how the Bills offense had 6 plays of 20 or more yards, whereas the Chiefs only had 1. So it just, I suppose it shows really that the Chiefs were already going into that efficiency thing, but the Bills were moving on that defense. And it's kind of like, if I was to be the Eagles this week, I'm saying that they don't play the same way. So it's like, how much stock can you really put into this game? But your likes there of Nazi Johnson, the cornerback, he was targeted again and again. He was the one that was giving up the plays. So when we're talking about like how the Philadelphia receivers are going to get open, can you target him? Because there's a bit of a blueprint there from this game in particular. So that's why I'm kind of learning from that game there.
And looking back now in hindsight, just as you're mentioning it, did the Bills reveal too much in that game? You know, they were really obviously.
Well, that's what we said going into.
They're vying for that number 1 seed, which obviously could be a massive difference in the playoffs. But the Chiefs may have held a bit back, and it ultimately could have proved the difference in the championship game.
But when I was saying yesterday, and we'll talk about it some more tomorrow, the Philadelphia Eagles, like if they were to, I suppose, go man on man, like there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot you're supposed to do against Mahomes. You can't blitz him. He's great against man, but it's like even in this, like Xavier Worthy, there would be 2 guys tied on him, and Mahomes is still finding the space. So it's like, I don't think you get great confidence. That's why I'm saying it's not their worst performance. It was just it's their most interesting because it was the one loss. It was the 2 Mahomes to start the game and end the game interceptions that I can see Vic Fangio watching it back and be like, what did I see there that I can apply?
If I just jump into it for a start, like I was, do we say the word lucky enough? I was lucky enough to see the Chiefs playing Christmas, and I want to give a shout out to my wife for going to that game on Christmas Day and, you know, bypassing. Do you know I didn't have a Christmas dinner this year? We got a takeout in an Asian restaurant 14 miles from the centre of Pittsburgh. There was nowhere open. We had to get an Uber Eats for Christmas. It was awful.
Oh my God, that was an intense stare in the camera, Michael.
It was absolutely brutal. Now, I made some notes on this, but, you know, first off, just to try and sum it up, the way that they played, and going into this game, the Steelers had lost 3 in a bounce, but they had still won 10 games, so there was still a lot of optimism. There was a lot of hype around Christmas Day, and the way that the Chiefs had actually played in that game, it's the way that we talked about yesterday, Mark, and you mentioned about that quick snap, that fast offense, getting the ball out. But at no point in that game did the Chiefs look like they struggled. For all their negative points, for all the people that are against them, including myself at numerous times this season, there are so many points in that game where you thought to yourself, geez, they can just bulldoze a team. And that Steelers team,
it's not bulldoze. It's you know,
it's different.
It's the death by 1,000 cuts. It's that they're able. It's like when they need it, they get the conversion. They're like, oh, not again.
But even outside of the offense, talking about quick snaps, the way that the defense was able to stop Russell Wilson, who really, that like talking about pressure, he's played under pressure so many times in his career. He had to win that game. The Steelers had to win that game for the North, or else it was gone. We've seen the Ravens got the Texans quite favourably after that. There, sacked 6 times, numerous turnovers, but the pressure that SPAGS had on Pittsburgh's defense was absolutely ridiculous, especially in the red zone. Justin Reed and Trent McDuffie completely killed him. I said it earlier on one of the games we looked at. But just generally as well, going into that, and the way that they've went from there, George Karlaftis from that game at Christmas has had stellar games in week 17, not week 18 because he sat it out, week 17, then 2 playoff games. He's had ridiculous amounts of pressurizing zone stats where he's pressured at record spots for his defense. But this defense has taken a step up from that game. It gave him the belief. I think Travis Kelce had a couple of touchdowns in that game. He reached over the 1,000-yard limit in terms of that there for the record. This Chiefs team on that day to a worldwide audience announced themselves for the season, and we always make a joke about how they never come out of second gear. That was the one time we've seen them. Now, I think they played better there than they've played specifically in the divisional round. They have not played to that level since, in my opinion, but they probably couldn't.
The divisional round again, that's one that Jason, what are you talking about here? Divisional round, all right. Take it from there.
As we cover his credential. So we don't get
no, I'm good. I got the,
go for it, lad. Go for it.
PFI logo black me there. Not so much for the way the Chiefs played. I mean, it was unimpressive, but a lot of their season's been unimpressive.
But
so
it
wasn't.
But it's not that it was unimpressive. It was against a very good defense. That's worth looking at because the Philadelphia Eagles are probably better again. They are better again than the Houston Texans. At the end of the day, the Houston Texans were able to defend against the Chiefs.
Absolutely. But the reason why I've chosen it is not really because of the performance element. It's just because of the storylines that came out of this game.
Yeah.
And Mark, I know this is something that you particularly don't want to talk about this week, but I think it's an elephant in the room in terms of the time it's getting, the relationship between the Chiefs and the refs and whether there's something going on there. By the way, I absolutely don't believe there is anything going on there. But really, after this game in particular, on the Monday morning, the headlines were all about the refs. You know, you had Will Anderson going straight to the media and saying, we knew it was going to be us versus the refs going into this game. Comments like that, it just really takes the shine away from the Chiefs and what they're doing, because they're on to make history this year. Yet, yesterday you have the commissioner getting asked about refs and fixing games. Clark Hunt was being asked about it in opening night. It's just a shame that element of the game is taking a lot of the glory away from the Chiefs. Because
do you know what, Jason? I wonder as part of it, because there's no storyline about the Chiefs. We've run through all of them over the last number of years. I think it is a bit of the media, and that's why I don't fan the Flames. Because I do think it is that some people are like, I need a new narrative to make the Chiefs interesting to my fans following.
It's probably inevitable with teams that are successful, because if you look at top to bottom teams in the league, there's going to be games throughout the season where decisions go their way. It's human error. That just happens in the NFL. But when you have a team who's performing so well and winning week after week, those errors are going to receive more airtime, and they're going to be more meaningful. Do you know who gets them as well? Josh Allen. Josh Allen does get penalties, and it's like, because they haven't won a Super Bowl, it's not brought up, and it's like, I'm not giving out about it. The flag is there to be thrown, but the exact same flags that Mahomes gets, Josh Allen does get. Now, he didn't get them in that game, but over the course of the season, he does get them.
There was a great thread on X about that, where it was like, can't believe all this hype from like the AFC Championship, all these fallouts, all this controversial calls, and I'm going to have a thread and all these big plays, and it was all stuff that went in the Bills' favour.
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Like 7 or 8 different
Thank
things.
you, Michael. Come on.
I will find that and put it on social media. We are
in that game too. Derek Stingley was amazing as a cornerback, and it just goes to show, like, when this part of the field was removed, what it can do, and that's why I think that's a very impressive game from the Houston Texans. Now, it was there in the first quarter anyway, and at a certain point it was like the offense never helped. Houston's offense never helped them.
We're going to get questions in here in a few minutes. If you're watching it live, get a few questions. If you're on the podcast, try and either DM us or check out for a Google form link in the morning post media party. That's going to be a mad night, isn't it? Jesus. All right, non-quarterback MVP. Who have we got?
Laudia.
I know, sorry. Get her in the event. I'm going to say George Karlaftis. He is at a standout.
Oh, I'm so glad you are championing George Karlaftis.
He's my
this
best
week.
friend at the minute.
Tell me about him.
Like, Dara's sitting behind us here. Like, the man literally loves us. He didn't bear hug Dara last night, but he's a lovely lad. And the way he's played, he's had a standout season. 8 sacks over 16 games, and the majority of them came in the last 4 to 5 games of the season. He has taken a step up. I have to cite Dara Carger for this stat, as his colleague Hanneman gets more famous on this podcast here. Dara, first player in NFL history at the age of 23 to be a 3-time champion if he wins on Sunday. The progression, if you actually read his story, he actually went to the US.
Sorry, couldn't I interrupt for a second? There was a really cool moment with it. You and Dara made the exact same hand signs at the exact same time explaining out that sentence way to go, you guys! Like that was super insane.
It's the Ulsterman vibe. You know what I mean? We're joking there about how there's so many Ulstermen in the NFL, but there's no Cork lads or Dublin lads. We will come back to that. If you actually look at the story, I'm really certain he moved to the US from Greece because his dad died when he was 10. Like, he only moved here because of that, and then he ended up obviously going to high school and playing football. He's a lovely lad, but more so, it's not just about his stats. He's defended 5 passes, he can disrupt plays, but for me, it's his consistency. I have no doubt that he's going to go out on Sunday and have a hell of a game, and you never know who's going to come up clutch in those big moments in like the third and fourth quarter when Jalen Hurts, if he's being pressured, if SPAGS is going after him, when those gaps open, Karlaftis could be there. I don't know the odds. I'd say it's well over 10-1, 18 plus B gamble aware. I just feel like Karlaftis could be a real low-key caliber. But for MVP, but the NFL love giving the quarterback the MVP.
Well, this is it was put into the group chat or into the text questions yesterday. We are eliminating the quarterback from this conversation, everyone. So, Jason, do you want to pick a wide receiver, a running back, or a defensive player?
Well, I've gone offensive.
Tight end.
And it does kind of feel redundant talking about a non-QB because Mahomes has won MVP.
I suppose this is their standout star outside of the obvious.
Yeah.
Do you know
so
what?
I'm
gonna take a word from myself. This is not the MVP. This is the MVP on the field as opposed to the MVP award that is actually given out. Like,
so in the last 10 years, there's talking about the official MVP award. It is obviously a quarterback heavy award, but in the last 10 years there were 3 non-quarterbacks that have won it. 2 of them were wide receivers. Cooper Kupp is the most recent. So I was kind of dwelling on some receivers for the Chiefs that might win it, and there is a number of guys. Any one of them seemingly could have a big day. I know you're going to talk about the Eagles secondary and what they might do to prevent that.
Talked about it yesterday, Jason.
We're going to be repeating ourselves a lot this week.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things.
That's the challenge. But you've obviously got Hopkins, Juju, Hollywood, Worthy, and I was kind of looking at each of these receivers, trying to predict which one of them might break out and catch the game-winning touchdown. But I was completely overlooking Travis Kelce, who isn't getting as much attention for the first performance on the field. It's all about the Taylor Swift questions.
All he has to do is pop a 5-hour energy on Sunday and he's grand.
But
you know what I mean?
in the last 3 Chiefs Super Bowls, he's been their leading receiver, and he is 35 years old. He's of course slowing down this year, but I'm backing him in a big game. I think he will be looked at in pivotal moments. The Eagles are pretty good at defending tight ends, but as I say, Super Bowl, I can see the stars rising, and any potential award will be directed towards him.
So if Jason's going to say that, I'm going to say Travis Kelce's under 35 yards.
Oh my God.
Who have you got?
I actually looked, and like I just kind of alluded to, but if you look at the form player coming in right now, dating back to week 15, Chris Jones is like the upper level of elite. In that championship game, he was the best graded defensive player. So we know he's going in with a lot of form, and we know that he plays in Super Bowls. We know that he has shown up over the last few whiles. And then it is what I'm saying. The problem is there's the MVP award that is just, it's going to go to Mahomes, it's going to go to the winning quarterback. But it's the disruptor on the field that I'm looking for. And I suppose when you look at Chris Jones, there's an unpredictability to his game, as in he has 100 snaps at right defensive end, right defensive tackle, left defensive tackle, left defensive end. He can line up anywhere on the line, and something that I'm going to talk about with who I've picked for tomorrow's award. But that unpredictability, as the Vic Fangio, as the Eagles offense has to talk about its O-line about protecting against Chris Jones. It's like all week now they have to all be focused on him as in their game plan, and then it opens up areas for George Karlaftis to come through. So I think that Chris Jones, while he mightn't be able to actually win the award, if that makes sense, I think that a lot of resources go in to getting Chris Jones to negate Chris Jones. That I think that there's something in that. It's like the Scouts MVP award, if I can call it that I think he's going to be massive. The example, the 2019 Super Bowl, he had the 3 batted passes, he had a pass rush that led to the interception, and he broke up the game, or he was breaking up the middle all day long. He didn't get it because there's some stats that don't show up in the box score. That his disruption doesn't show up in the box score. but he's going to be all over the game. His fingerprints will be.
We will see what happens, baby. We have a heap of questions. We need to get into them. Right, first up, thanks everybody again for so many questions. Justin in Dublin, when you were all at the opening night event, what was the vibe? The same from both teams, or the one group seemed more relaxed than the other? I think the Eagles seemed really chilled. Really chilled.
Oh, but the Chiefs though are super chilled because they're so used to it. It's actually Justin Reid. I'll have to say, when you say you love George Karlaftis, I love Justin Reid. He's one of the friendliest guys. He's the safety, and he also has a beaming smile. And I think he just shows calm and composed. The only interesting ones were to go after were probably DeAndre Hopkins and DJ Humphries, because they're new to it. It is a new experience. They've come from different teams. But the guys like your Karlaftises that have never lost the playoff game, I have to say, now don't get me wrong, they're relaxed. They've both been at this in recent years. Like the Eagles is only 2 years ago, so it's nice that they, as Michael tells me to hurry up.
A lot of people there.
Just turned off.
There's a lot of people saying hello here. Gur from Galway. I'll give this one to you, Jason. Which of the two rosters do you think have improved more from Super Bowl 57? Is Hurts playing at a lower level?
If you're talking about the rosters, then absolutely it's the Eagles for me. We talked a bit about it yesterday. A big part of that was the draft classes that Howie Roseman managed to bring into the roster, particularly on defense. When you've got guys like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, the two rookie cornerbacks, really across the board, I think the Eagles look better this year than they did 2 years ago. Absolutely.
And Saquon was added to the team. let's give that mention.
He's been alright. Shout out to all the Giants fans watching. I know it's a hard week. If I was a Giants fan this week, jeez. See all these, there's Giants fans.
I think you'd be thrilled if you really supported a player. Can you not I know it's the Eagles or whatever,
right.
But
Michael from Armagh. Do you know Michael in Armagh, Dara? No. Do you know Michael in Armagh? He's put a question. No.
I got told to hurry up.
He says, is it shorts and t-shirt wherever it is? Jesus, warm.
No, not in here because this air conditioning. This is brutal.
Right here.
It's freezing right here.
I went outside yesterday. I was wearing a black shirt, black jeans, black overshirt, funeral, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Black shoes as well.
Outside is muggy now this morning.
God. Jeez, you wouldn't be long getting sunburned. Mickey and Nuri, when are you lads going on the drink of McAfee and the boys this week? And who are the Steelers playing in Dublin? I don't know what he's talking about that second bit, but this first one, hopefully tomorrow night.
I want to
oh
watch that clip.
No, not tomorrow night. We have a load of calls lined up between all of us. You're included in that.
Calls tomorrow night?
You have some radio hits to do tomorrow night.
No, what time?
I've been talking to you about this.
Friday, not today.
We'll talk about this off air.
You
told me earlier on. Oh my God, this is an off-air conversation. Michael, don't do this to me. Load of producers. We will be all over Irish radio this week. By the way, we have so many requests put in. So that's going to be a bit of fun.
There's a heap of questions here. Seamus Burke in Limerick. Well, scratch Seamus, lad. Do the Packers go all out for one of Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, or do they put their eggs in getting a wide receiver one? Should they accept a life without the likes of Jair Alexander? I feel like we should have Dara.
Oh, well, if you listened in, this might have been put in for earlier on when Sam was on.
Yeah. But what do you go?
Listen to his answer. Don't listen to us. Listen to Sam.
But in terms of Jair Alexander, if you can't stay on the field, obviously he's fantastic when he's on the field. But would you set out? I think that the Packers will end up with one of Max.
Really?
Well, no. Well, I did. I mean, they're the front runner. They're the front runner for one of the superstars. But whether they give up the capital is the whole other thing.
Sean McCune in Armagh. Another Armagh. People love the Armagh. People love the NFL in Armagh. Sean McCune in Armagh. Who is the better offense?
If this is Sean McCune as in the boy I live in the Holy Lands with, well, what's the crack you ball? The Chiefs have the better offense.
This is no, you're not going to get better content than this out. I'm just going to put that out there. Where's all the court?
What was the question?
Who is the better offense?
I would say the Eagles.
Gary McGurk, we got a question here on Bernard Ross in Belfast. What is the one thing in defense that Philly have to do in order to stop this Chiefs offense? Do you know Bernard as well?
That's Bootsy.
It's right here. Dara can answer the question. Bernard Ross in Belfast.
It's Bootsy. Oh Jesus! What is one thing I do in order to Chiefs defense?
You're right. Right. Okay. Right. This is the joys of being live. Shout out to everybody in the podcast right now. Mark, you look terrible.
Well, we should actually, because it's sounding good in my ears, so I can't imagine it sounding good at home. So
we'll sort that out. I'll edit that. Don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. Owen Farrell, hi lads, up Leinster. Sam is a legend. I hope both teams lose. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Owen. Appreciate that there. Michael Devlin saying Mark is 100% on that. He said that about 7 minutes ago. So fair play to
What
you.
was I talking about?
Shout out to Michael. I hope you're doing well, lad. Up to your own. And Jared said, brilliant, lads. There's a few comments here now just before we go. YNWA Cop 27. How does the Guinness compare in New Orleans to Las Vegas?
Oh God, it's better.
It's a step up.
Oh, it's better.
Going by your plastic cup.
I mean, we were just talking to Adam Rank about it a while ago.
Pro Football Ireland nearly ended last night. Plastic cup.
Oh my God, we couldn't even find Guinness last year in the first place. I think O'Shea's was some pub we found.
Rera last year.
Plastic cup.
Oh, it was brutal in Vegas. It was absolutely undrinkable.
There's a few nice spots here for the US. You know, it's obviously not like back home. No Beamish either, which, come on.
And a rare Guinness with a basketball logo.
Jacob knows what a Beamish is.
Guinness glass popped up yesterday, which was random. Never seen one of those before. Didn't know there was a cross collaboration with the NBA.
We've one final one from Justin Turner. Do you think special teams could be the deciding factor in a close game? Jeff Reinbold told us at your Christmas event in Dublin the Chiefs are the special best teams unit in the league. That is such
a shout. Didn't we talk about special teams yesterday? Oh, it was Charlie. Charlie was the one that turned us on, and it's like, special teams actually could, because everyone's focused on those offense versus defense.
You've got a kicker this one
if
too.
We're saying it's a 1.5 point game, you just need that marginal thing to go in your favour. It's such a good shout, whoever sent that in.
And whoever I say that as well, like Butker's won 3, not 2. Sorry. So go ahead.
I do think the Chiefs have the advantage in that regard in the kicking game. Eagles' kicker has been a bit ropey at points throughout the season, so if it's coming down to a kick at the end, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Talking about being a bit ropey, it's the media party tonight. On that note, we'll be back tomorrow. We have got these idiots here, including myself.
It'll be a 6 o'clock podcast tomorrow as we recover all day long.
We're live tomorrow, 1 o'clock New Orleans, which is 7 o'clock at home. A little bit earlier tomorrow. Do get your questions in the morning. You can watch it back, listen back very quickly. 1 o'clock New Orleans, 7 o'clock Ireland tomorrow. There's a press conference in the afternoon we have to go to. And in the meantime, keep her lit. Have a great evening. Presented to you by 8 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Keep her lit. Bye-bye.